right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the franchise panel discussion and roundtable. We've got just a great group of individuals here today. You may already know myself, Blair Nickel, Blair, if you want to give a wave, and Charlie McGee. We are here with FranNet, and we normally offer a similar workshop where we invite franchisors to provide a presentation of their brands, their overview, their business model. Now, in the past, we've done this in more of a formal presentation, and I'm so happy that you get to join us when we're going to try something new, which is just have a conversation where you get to interact as much or as little as you like. Just for context, if you will, each franchisor is going to have a couple of minutes just to introduce themselves briefly and their brand. We currently have two franchisors. A third is trying to log in. He's having technical difficulties, so we'll see if he's able to join us. And we also have a franchisee, Michael Lee, who is a past FranNet client. Michael, if you want to give a wave so we can identify you, thank you. And he will briefly introduce himself and his brand, and then we'll jump in to the conversation. So for starters, if you are new to FranNet, I just want to briefly tell you that we have been around for 32 years. We are a franchise consulting firm, and we specialize in our local markets. So Blair, Charlie, and I, we specialize in Oregon, Idaho, Washington, and Alaska. We live and work and conduct our lives in these local markets. And so we know the personality, the nuances of what's going on, where you think you might like to open your business. We've got national partnerships with the Small Business Development Center and SCORE. These are fantastic organizations that provide you with free business advising. And frankly, they rely on us to provide expertise and education relating to the franchise industry. And what we do is we match people who want to be in business for themselves with specialty franchise models and businesses. And our services are entirely free to you. So what we do is we provide education to you as someone who is interested in franchising. We offer you choices. We offer you pre-screened, thoroughly vetted franchise brands that are currently in expansion mode. And what we offer to our franchisor partners who are on today are highly qualified, educated candidates like yourself. So that's a little bit about FranNet. I'd like to hand it over to Michael Mudd. Michael, tell us a little bit about junk luggers.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Junk Luggers. My name is Michael Mudd, as Emily mentioned. I'm just going to spend 3 minutes to give you some context on what is the Junk Luggers. So if you want to hit the next slide there, Emily, the Junk Luggers is a full-service junk removal company. And we work with a variety of different customers, both residential and commercial. So folks that are moving or downsizing or looking to declutter, do a clean out, make room for a home office because they got displaced during COVID-19, whatever it is, they're trying to get rid of things. We make that easy and convenient for them. We also work with a lot of commercial accounts and people that live in apartments, as an example. They are a little bit more transient, they move more often. And when they move, they don't always take all their stuff. And when that happens, the leasing agents don't deal with it. They just call us on speed dial, 1-800-LUG-JUNK. We come out and do the clean out for the apartment unit. And then we're paid by the security deposit that's left behind by the renter. And that same kind of work happens in storage units all the time. They don't pay their storage bills. They cut the lock. We do the clean out. Leasing agents big business there. It's big box retail clean outs. We do a lot of construction work. The truck himself has a roll-off container. And we do dumpster services for landscapers and for pool contractors and for roofers. So it's a big business, guys. If you look at full service junk removal, it's a $10 billion business, and it's been growing 1.8% since 2003. During recessions, during pandemics, during good times and bad times, people have junk, and we're taking care of it with a national footprint. Now, in the next slide, I really want you to understand that this isn't about you driving a truck. This is not a chuck in the truck. We're looking for franchisees to run the business. And even a single territory operator for our brand is going to be in a fleet of trucks between 2 to 4 trucks in one territory. And most of our franchisees are going into multiple territories. It does not require real estate. So no leases, no personal guarantees on a lease agreement. You don't have to carry any inventory, no payments receivable. We have an in-house marketing team. And that's one thing I hope we're going to discuss today is we're full service here. We provide full service marketing with one of the most talented executives in franchising, in my opinion. Our CMO is more than impressive. We also have a full service appointment center with 23 employees who take all the inbound traffic, they take all the outbound traffic and actually book the appointments on behalf of our franchisees. The platform allows for you to keep a job. If you're looking for a bridge to entrepreneurship, this provides a great opportunity for that. Minimal staff, minimal investment. The next slide just summarizes quickly what the economics look like. You can get into the business for about $150,000 to get into the junk luggers. The average franchisee in our system today, and by the way, we have a lot of them. This is not a new company. We were founded in 2003. We have 45 franchisees servicing 125 territories. So they're servicing over 40 million people coast to coast. We do have operations on the West Coast. The brand was started in Connecticut. Average franchisees do $955,000 in gross revenue. They're running a 23% profit margin. And bear in mind, that does not include our corporate territory. Okay, so we took that out so it doesn't skew the average number. The corporate territories do it about 3.5 million. Now, bear in mind, they're taking junk and then upscaling it. And we are also a donation center. It's a second revenue stream for us. So the corporate territory is doing 3.154 million in junk removal, upscaling and then selling that junk they've already been paid for at 362,000 of additional revenue. So it's good potential, great business. I'm excited to be on the call to help you to explore it a little further.
Excellent. Hey, thanks, Michael. So we also had Anthony with Tint World, who's still having some technical difficulties. So I'm just going to click through Anthony's slides. Hopefully he'll be able to jump in here. Otherwise, Chris Brown, would you please tell us about Chicken Cone?
Hey, thank you very much. And again, as Michael said, thanks for the opportunity to be here. Look forward to exploring this in conversation mode a little bit later. But we are Fork Free Chicken and Waffles. We're a very versatile unit, low barrier to entry. The barrier to entry for our model is about $100,000 to $150,000 with typical AUVs or annual revenue between $580,000 and $600,000 with a 22% profit. So we're a very lean model. We're very versatile. We are a candidate, or excuse me, a customer walks into our restaurant, they walk up to the register, they order their chicken cone, they pay for their chicken cone, they step to the side, and most of the time, within 1 to 2 minutes, we hand that chicken cone to them. We say, congratulations. It elicits an engaging response, and they pull out their phone and they either take a picture of the chicken cone or they take a picture, a selfie of themselves, and then they post it. And we leverage their likes, their friends, their followers, and that's how we've grown exponentially. That coupled with the outstanding marketing strategy and team. We too have an in-house marketing team that capitalizes mostly on social media, and that's been honestly the secret to our growth. We have an incredibly engaged culture following, and we've been able to leverage that. We have a really strong support system, both initially and ongoing. We help equip our franchisees to succeed. It is a very simple system, and that's what we've grown with regards to the simplicity of operation, the simplicity of the inventory, simplicity of the labor, and really the versatility of going into really creative spaces. Our first location was 300 square feet. It produced that $580,000 revenue, year one revenues with that 20% profit. And that's what we've formed our model on moving forward. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. Our real estate strategy, our marketing strategy, operations, all those things. And I look forward to exploring them more with you. I would say this though, relative to what we've gone through. Our brand has succeeded in the midst of these conditions that we're in as a result of, and people say, food in the midst of COVID, how does that work? And we're very lean. It's Fork Free Chicken and Waffles. Our guest never has to touch the food. And that coupled with the great packaging, the great ability for to go and delivery, it's really been the conditions have really been made for us, and we've been made for the conditions. And so we've been very fortunate to grow in this day and age, and we look forward to talking with you more about it. So,
excellent. Thank you, Chris. And Michael Lee, sir, would you please tell us about yourself and your franchise business?
Hi guys, I'm Michael. Thank you again for hosting this. I'm a franchisee, so my perspective is probably going to be a little different than the others here. I've been in business for just under a year. I think we're at 11 months. And so I started this process with FranNet many years ago, and took a long time in making a decision because it is not an easy decision to make. And could not be happier now that I finally got to the fact of making the decision, moving forward, getting through the entire process of starting your own business, and now successfully operating one. So my franchise that I'm here to represent is Fitness Machine Technicians. We started obviously just before COVID, and we can talk a little bit more during the discussion about how that's influenced our business in all sorts of ways, obviously, as it has everybody.
Great, thank you. So Fitness Machine Technicians, you service fitness equipment.
Correct. We repair both residential and commercial, any type of fitness equipment you could imagine. So the residential side, obviously during COVID, is big, but we do hotels, apartment complexes, hospitals, as well as traditional gyms that people think about as well.
Got it. Thanks, Michael. And thanks everyone for the high-level interview. And for those of you that are attending, we did get some questions sent to us ahead of time. So I'm going to kick it off with those. Blair and Charlie might jump in with questions. If you're logging in and you have some questions, just type them into the chat box. Blair will be monitoring that and can relay some things as they come in. But as people sent us their questions ahead of time, the most popular questions, and just about everybody has already mentioned this, so I'm just going to go straight in. COVID. How has COVID affected your business? So Michael, or Chris, who wants to just jump into the deep end with me?
Well, go ahead, Mike.
It's up to you. You go first, but I'll come after you.
All right. So, we started before COVID. We were still very new when COVID hit. In fact, I was in a gym in Snohomish County when we first got the news that there was, COVID cases in Snohomish County. And my tech and I looked at each other and said, this is going to change things. We had established in the first 3 months of being in business, we had established some pretty significant contracts. We were moving from doing some residential work to doing much more commercial work, which was the goal in the process. As soon as COVID hit, all of our contracts basically stopped. And within 1 week, I had let go of my second tech my third tech that I had hired, and I kept on my first tech. So I had myself and one other tech still working. Basically, within 1 week, everything stopped. We had no business. 1 week later, we had enough work to keep one person full time. And within 2 weeks, we had enough work to keep 2 people full time. Within a month or two, we got to the point where we really needed to bring back our third tech. And by 4 months in, we were back up to the same kind of dollars we were doing before COVID. It looks a little different because it's much more residential work than commercial work. So the work looks a little different. The travel looks a little different. The scheduling is a lot different. But outside of that, the business is still the same.
your business was affected by, you had two different revenue streams, B2B and B2C.
Correct.
And is it safe to say that during or since the pandemic, it is largely more B2C?
Correct. We do still have some of those contracts coming back with with other companies, but they're much smaller amounts and they're slow to return.
Got it. Thank you.
Michael, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you're in a position, so all the attendees that are listening to us right now, they're typically in some type of career transition, which I imagine you were as well. And you said, hey, it was a hard decision, but I made the decision and I'm glad I made the decision. Can you kind of go through kind of the process that you went through in your mind as to, hey, I'm not going the traditional corporate route, I'm going to go the business ownership route, and here's why?
Yeah, I think, and part of this, I mean, this could be a long story, but the reality is that years ago, Charlie and I talked, and I knew that I wanted to own my own business. So that part was pretty simple for me. I'm an aerospace engineer. I have my master's in business. Operating a business, from my perspective, is not the challenging thing to do. The challenging thing to do is to leave a standard paycheck and to move to a model that is a little more unsure, right? I mean, that's what most people are concerned about. When I made the decision that I had help in making the decision to move to operating our own business because I got fired. And during that process, my wife and I started our own business, not as a franchise, doing something completely different. Very successful, thoroughly enjoyed it. But the liability in what we were doing from a state level, we quickly learned was very concerning to us long-term, and something that we did not want to get involved in. We were flipping houses, and in Washington State, flipping houses can be very labor or liability intensive in future years. So we decided we wanted to do something else different. We came back to Charlie, talked about other opportunities, and Charlie was able to help us find something that fit both of our interests and looked, interesting moving forward. Does that answer it, Blair?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. And it looks like Anthony is logged in. Hey, Anthony, welcome. I'm going to unmute you. We're actually mid-question, Anthony, so I'm going to finish this line of questioning, then we'll jump back and you can introduce Tint World. So we were talking about the effects of COVID on business, and Michael Mudd, tell us about the effects of COVID on the junk luggers.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. And Michael, I would just like to just say congratulations on your success, man. I love hearing stories of people like you who get into franchising and have just an amazing story to share with the world. So congratulations.
Thank you.
With Junk Luggers, we've just been really grateful, and things have done really well for us. The pandemic, it's weird how it impacts certain industries in a favorable way, and it impacts other industries in a negative way. We happen to be that industry where it impacted in a favorable way. We're an essential business. We provide service to help people declutter and get rid of junk. And what happened was the perfect storm with COVID-19. So by a show of hands, I want everyone that's on the call, did anyone clean out a garage or a kitchen or a basement or anything during COVID-19? Anyone have that experience? All right, so that was like everybody. And it was kind of just by sheer boredom, right? We didn't have anything going on. So we were doing projects that were just outstanding for years and years and years. But also, so that occurred, but secondarily, when everyone was building homes, like we built our houses to live. Most of us didn't build the house to accommodate virtual classrooms for our 3 children. We didn't build our house to accommodate 2 offices for mom and dad. So basically we were turned upside down. Our lives were completely rapidly turned upside down, and we had to recreate our living environments for that purpose. Now, Michael, I'm assuming is the reason your business got ramped back up is because everyone started to build home gyms. So where do you put a home gym? You're not going to go to the gym. So you're going to put it into your spare bedroom. You're going to put it into your garage. You're going to put it into your basement. So what are you going to need when you put a gym into your basement? Someone to clean out the basement. So what we started to do, we went right into it. So our chief marketing officer is Christy Ferguson, amazing, amazing person. She does a national campaign, curbside pickup. Anyone who had something they had to get rid of, put it on the curb. Junk luggers would come out there and do touchless removal. We would just take everything from your curb, And that way you didn't have to go to the landfill, you didn't have to go out, and no one wanted to go anywhere. So it was like a blessing to get that service for somebody to come and haul away a bedroom full of furniture so you can build a home office, so you can actually operate your business or your employment from your home. So it was just turned out to be phenomenal. We actually saw a spike in revenue. Now, I would say I'm glad things are stabilizing. I really am. But for our business sake, we're now trending back to normal. We're still seeing double-digit increases in revenue, but we were seeing, like, at a period of time, it was staggering how much revenue was coming our way. So it actually impacted us really well. And I'm incredibly grateful to be aligned with it. In that pandemic period of time, we had like 15 franchisees come aboard our system. We did full virtual training programs, 2 separate training programs. We've launched, like 5 or 6 franchisees have launched during the pandemic. San Diego, Cameron Robinson rolled 2 trucks and just started just 2 months ago or 3 months ago. So he signed his agreements in the pandemic, went through training in the pandemic, and launched the business in the pandemic, trying to catch the wave, because the wave's big right now for the junk luggers. But
Thanks, Michael.
welcome.
Yeah.
And Chris.
I was going to say, Emily, yeah, I, like Michael, I would say that in the beginning, when when it hit, I think, and all of us could probably relate to this, we kind of looked at each other and said, oh my God, what are we in for? And we're food, and what's the first thing you hear about in the COVID thing was that all these food operations were shut down. Now, ours was not the case. I mean, initially we had one location in New York City, which was the hotspot, right? Initially, that closed, and then one in Dubai. But then the thing was, the week before this hit, we opened a new location, and then we were set to open another location the week after it hit. That location that was scheduled to open the week after, that did get pushed back a couple of weeks, but it still opened. Like Michael was sharing, we had 5 locations open before this began. We had one that opened the week before, and then we had the one that got pushed back. I guess it was about 3 weeks into this. But then we've had leases signed and construction completed, begun, training, as Michael was saying. We've been one of those very fortunate systems that have been really, and I use this word sensitively, sort of COVID friendly. The conditions that were presented with COVID really fed into the kind of business model that we have. It is virtually hands-free. It's fork-free chicken and waffles, but our guest never has to touch the product. And in addition to that, the real estate that opened up as a result of other businesses closing, we were able to get into some wonderfully creative locations. Our first model was a 300 square foot space, essentially a counter, if you want to call it that. We're street food. We have this edginess, sort of cool aspect to what we offer, and that really fed into the conditions that were being presented to us. So yes, we've done virtual discovery days, and we can do everything but the food. But guess what? We have mobile units, and we've actually gone to people with tastings. So it's been a fun, creative it's produced fun, creative elements. It's not been a fun, creative, type of situation, but we've adapted, and we've been very successful even in the midst of it. Our units are up 30 to 40% from pre-COVID days. So we haven't seen any tapering off. We're still launching new units as we speak. We just opened 3 this past month, and we're set to open another 2 in the next 3 weeks. So like Michael said, we're just grateful. We're grateful to be on the front side of this, and we have a model that supports it.
Excellent. Thank you. And Anthony, welcome. I'm glad we got it all figured out. You are not the only one that's dealt with technical difficulties in the last 6 months. So I'm so glad you're here, Anthony. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you could make sure that you're unmuted on your end. And Anthony, I'm going to go ahead and pull up your slides. If you want to take just a minute or two to introduce Tint World, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Well, I want to start off by saying that I am not Anthony Foley. I am on his behalf because he's having technical difficulties. My name is Charles Bonfiglio. I'm the CEO of Titwal Franchise.
Hello. Thank you for joining us, Charles. That's great.
So ahead.
So you're like, I don't know what slides we have. Well, Charles, I'll show you. So this is some information that Anthony had sent to us in advance. Is there anything here that you would like to speak to so we could get a high level understanding of Tint World?
Oh, sure. I would like to go over all of this with you, and I'm very familiar with everything here. So, Titwal started out in 1982 as a unique business model in franchising in South Florida. In 2007, we began franchising the model with 6 locations. And today we've grown to nearly 80 stores open. We're in 3 countries. We are in United States, we're in Canada, and we're in Dubai and Saudi Arabia. And we basically have, I'd say about 20% of our stores now are multi-store owners with 1, 2, or 3 or 4 stores. We have 1 5-store owner that's developing up to that. We also have a wide variety of products and services. So we handle automotive, residential, commercial, marine services in the window tint and security film area of expertise. But in the automotive sector, we have in the auto centers that we have a lot of different services that we offer within them that are not directly related to auto repair. They're off-the-market accessories, maintenance services, everything from window tinting, paint protection film, vehicle wraps, security systems, electronics, car and truck accessories, custom wheels and tires. So all these services are in high demand, and we've really done really well throughout COVID. We got deemed an essential business, and since April, we've seen a 30% increase in chain-wide sales. No stores have closed, so we've done really good that way. We offer a vet Fran discount of 10%, as you can see. We have new stores in our program are usually profitable within 3 to 6 months because we set up our marketing strategy around those stores prior to them opening, and we can drive customers in. Then it's just really, acquiring the talent and staff to be able to monetize it and really grow really quickly. And we're really on all hands on deck on support for stores when we open. Our average store sales are currently 706. This past 2019, we've gone up in same store sales $40,000 to $70,000 every single year since we started franchising. So we expect to go up again next year quite a bit. Our average store of the top 50% of the stores is 970,000. We're getting more and more stores hitting over the $1 million mark. We have a couple over 2 million, and there's going to be maybe potentially one over 3 million this year. So we're really trending upward in all the areas, firing on all cylinders. And so if there's something further you'd like me to focus on, please let me know.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. We just like to give everyone some context in terms of the businesses that are being represented as we start to respond to people's questions. Now, I've got a laundry list of questions, but I really respect our attendees who are here. Blair, is there anything in the chat box to address before I move on?
Yes, there is. This one's from Brent Haynes. To all panelists, how did each brand pivot with hiring practices to keep up with growth during COVID and retain employees?
This is Chris. I'm with Chicken Cone, and we're the food concept. And our hiring practices, we really didn't have to pivot. I think we were given a larger pool of talent to work with. I think a lot of people found themselves in new positions of availability, if that's a kind way of saying it. And so but most of the team members that we work with were and are, it's sort of an unskilled labor position. It's a very simple model. And so we always have an abundance of talent, and we're always hiring. I think we always have to be in that position. Ours is a very small model, only 8 to 10 employees or team members within the model itself as an entire group. There are only 2 or 3 that are working at any given time. And our model is designed as an absentee model. So if there is some level of manager or shift lead that's in that position, typically that number goes down a little bit in terms of number of people. But yeah, we hire for attitude, and we train into everything. We really work with people who love food and have a passion for working with others.
I would say the same for us. I don't think we shifted at all in hiring. I would say that our candidates that we have hired since COVID have been slightly higher quality than they were pre-COVID. But again, I think that's just because there's probably a slightly larger pool of people looking for work. But other than that, I don't think anything's changed.
I can actually address it two ways. So there's the franchisor labor pool, there's the franchisee labor pool. On the franchisor side, we've been growing rapidly. So we've hired a bunch of different team members for the infrastructure for the junk luggers. The good news is Josh Cohen, who's the founder, he actually prepared well for the growth that we're experiencing today. And he spent the last year, I'd say from 18 months till about 9, maybe 6 months ago, he was actually building in stronger leadership team members. That was the reason we brought in, I can go through all these different bios for you, but an amazing team that actually supports the franchisees with the junk luggers. And then they've been adding additional infrastructure throughout COVID-19. I think we've probably hired another about 6 people at the corporate office, plus a bunch of different contact center members to be able to handle the volume. For the franchisees, we're kind of blessed because we deal largely with like young men, 20 years old or so, that are in the lugger position. And if anyone is a man on this call that has actually been 20 years old, you think you're bulletproof. So they love the role because it pays so well. These folks are getting good workouts. They're outside. They don't want to be behind a desk. They don't want to be stuck in an environment. So they want to be out and they want to work out while they're working, and they're getting paid like the average person is getting paid about $25 an hour. So they're well-paid people and they're young and bulletproof. So they actually love the work. We haven't had any problem in staffing up the franchisees process. And we have good hiring tools and good training tools for them. And we really want to build the culture to keep our net promoter score. If you look at, we're at a net promoter score of 90 with the junk luggers system wide, which is better than Ritz-Carlton. So it's important to maintain our culture, which we want to hire the right people, but we've had no problem getting the right people on board, doing the right training systems, and making sure the franchisees have the tools to operate successfully.
Charles, do you have anything to add as far as hiring and maintaining culture during COVID?
I really think, COVID was an opportunity for good leaders and leadership within an organization to build upon what was going on. We had to really get a handle on what was happening, how it affected our individual, like you said, internal franchise company, as well as our franchisees. And so we really rallied up the team within house and made sure we've made everybody on the same page of what we need to do to be safe, how we were going to operate within the office, who was not comfortable. If they were, what did they want? And we just wound up facilitating that internally. During that very first week, we confronted it, and then we had a short, brief meeting. Our whole focus was on how do we inspire and get a handle on all the franchisees to feel that same way so they can inspire their team. And that was the first 2 weeks we focused on that. From that point, it was, how do we figure out a way to slingshot out of this to actually have a really big upside? We thought about all the areas that people have said already, which is basically, more real estate available, better financing, a good, strong franchise company that's deemed essential can really, get a handle on things and really come out strong. So we did all that, and it's really paid off for us. And I think, in my opinion, the majority of the employers that are having problems was because either they were non-essential and they had a bigger hiccup in their business model, which forced them in some ways to maybe lay people off or put them on part-time, and they got comfortable doing that. And once they stepped out, there's a portion of that just didn't want to come back. They wanted to just stay out. And that just was from a disadvantage, either poor leadership or a situation that their business model was not essential. And that's just a luck factor. Nobody planned for that. I'm grateful that our company was that way, but we also really handled it very strong because we could have had turbulence during the time that we didn't know what was going on. We just said, let's focus on figuring it out and come out together. And we just pulled the whole together thing, and it really worked out for us. So I think that's really why the people on this panel probably didn't get negatively affected, because they had a positive mindset and they had a business that was able to continue to compete in the situation we were put into.
Thank you. So let's talk marketing, because one of the reasons that people get into franchise ownership as opposed to starting something on their own is brand recognition and marketing. So I would like to hear how each brand supports new franchise owners in the rollout, in the marketing process. Who would like to take that on?
I'll be happy to, because I'm not sure. I think my company is really more retail orientated, where people need to find you. And we're in a very niche category that they don't really know where to go. They're just searching it up online. And that gives us an advantage in some ways. So what we do on our franchise, we really have a full spectrum of what we do for them. We set up their social media accounts, their online ad accounts, Google accounts, Facebook accounts. We set everything up and we provide them a dashboard. So every single dollar we spend or any organic post that they or we make is showed on a report that they can see as a snapshot. If we're spending money on the advertising to get them in, they're going to know where the lead came, what the cost was, what the conversion is. And the conversion could be one of two different things: how well they answered the call or the lead, or how well that lead was. And we dissect that. So we measure everything through the whole system, and we quickly ramp up. We even know before they even open up their store what kind of influx they can get from each of the categories, because we have them segmented. So we do a like mind. If this location has this much population, this average demographics that is similar to these two others, well, then we know how many people on Google are searching for these types of things in these locations, and pull them over to here. And so combination of the demographics, the competitive analysis, along with the paid search platform allows us to know what this place is capable on day one if we have a really quality franchisee that's trained and to perform well. And so now it's just a matter of conversions and upselling and building customer relationships.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll take a shot at that one. Multiple facets to kind of discuss with the junk luggers, but ultimately a year and a half ago, we hired Christy Ferguson, and she's a former chief marketing officer for Edible Arrangements. She spent 11 years with them and took Edible Arrangements from 10 stores to a household name with 1,200 stores. And she's the real deal. She's all steak, no sizzle. She's amazing. But what she did for the brand was really come in and create a full service platform for the franchisees. And she still works directly with the franchise owners. So they come in and she basically puts together an entire strategy for their local marketing. And she basically presents it to them and says, this is what we want to do with your marketing plan. The franchisee then approves the plan. And then she goes to work to implement that on the behalf of the franchisee. The second layer is a partnership that occurred with Contractor Nation. And Contractor Nation basically formed a strategic partnership with Josh Cohen and took a very substantial position within the junk luggers. That influxed the brand with a ton of capital. And in the process, you probably want to do some research if you're a candidate on Contractor Nation, but they're a very, very large contractor company that works with home service contractors. They have 450 independent contractors working within their dealer network. And Contractor Nation bought an advertising agency called Treehouse Internet Group. And there are 75 employees that work in Treehouse Internet Group. So what Christy Ferguson takes the plan, she has 2 marketing coordinators that she hands the plan to. The plan then goes over to Treehouse Internet Group, and we deploy it with 75 employees that work in marketing for the portfolio of our brands. And they just go to town to create digital dominance. Same thing happens. It creates a dashboard report that you can see all your conversion rates, cost for customer acquisition. We do both a national and a local campaign. So we have the national, thejunkluggers.com, but each franchisee has the junkluggers of Seattle.com. And on that page, it's going to be your family photo. It's localized before and after photos. It's customer reviews that are locally done. And then we do remarketing. So anyone who hits the site, we remarket to we do a spider crawl to their browser window, and then we're doing remarketing for them. And another thing that's pretty unique about our concept is we localize the ad copy. We don't use ad templates like national templates. We actually go in and create ad copy specific to Seattle or to Portland, because what people are paying attention to in Portland is different than what they're paying attention to in Manhattan. So we need to we have operations in Manhattan, so we need to localize it. We do all the A/B copy testing, make sure that the copy is performing. And then at that point, we deploy local campaigns into the community. So it's much more hands-on. We provide full service and making sure the franchisees have the right growth engine. And then they're basically supplementing the growth engine with some more commercial account work and doing just business development. That's really the winning formula. That's how this business ramps up. And these franchisees are doing extraordinarily well with the systems in place.
Yeah, one of the things I would say as a franchisee is that I think the franchises that I have been aware of and talked with all do a very good job from a marketing perspective. And I think they really make it easy for somebody who's starting a business from scratch. And Emily, kind of like what you said, is that, you know, that's one of those areas most people are not that experienced in. And how do you start a business? How do you bring it up to speed? And I think that's one of the things that franchises do a very good job of, having some sort of recipe that's already been established, that's already been proven, and all you do is follow the steps. You know, for us, it was very simple. You know, you just go down the lines. They make sure that you meet each of your bullet points. You make sure you do them on time. And whether it's local, whether it's national, combination of the both of them. For us, it's both residential and commercial, and making sure that we're meeting all of the clientele that we should be meeting. It's pretty straightforward. And then usually there's some sort of, you know, program ongoing that makes sure that whether it's social media, whether it's some other campaigns that are ongoing to make sure that you're continuing to capture your market as you need to moving forward. It's pretty well sorted out. And I mean, we didn't see any glitches along the way at all. There were a couple areas at the beginning I would say, God, it seems like we're spending a lot of money on this or that, but in retrospect, there wasn't a single thing that I wouldn't have spent the money on, and it was, you know, it obviously paid for itself, you know, multiple fold over. So,
yeah, I would just say, you know, Michael Lee just said it best. I mean, I think if we're really responsible and conscientious franchisors, we're geared towards helping people who really don't know how to build their business the way that we know how to build our business. And, you know, it's like he was saying too, you know, our brand has grown. We opened, our first location was in New York City, and it's sort of the aorta to the world in a lot of ways. We have so many different, you know, it's a multicultural location. It's diverse. It's just it was an amazing sort of portal for us. Our first franchisee was in Dubai. He found us on Instagram. He had never been to the States. He still has never been to the States. We went to the mountains, so to speak, and we did a test kitchen space demo for him there, and he bought the region. And so our franchisees have largely, in part, grown through social media. We have an amazing, really strong culture following that is centered around, let's say if I'm a new franchisee, we have a team we brought in-house. Social Behavior is the name of the group, and we'll hire influencers to come into their locations. Once we find the location, we begin the grand opening marketing immediately, and we start sort of feeding, you know, seed information in through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Of course, we have you know, Snapchat and this thing called TikTok now, and that's, believe it or not, that's really been an amazing tool for us. We are a fun of the moment concept. We've taken in our opening slide, the word nostalgia is in there, and the reason it's in there is because, you know, chicken and waffles has been around for 85 years. And so what we've done is we've taken this sort of concept and given it legs, if you will. And so we're not only I should say patronized by the 15-year-old kid that comes in because they want the chicken cone cap or the shirt or the experience themselves, but we get the 85, 75-year-old woman strolling through Central Park who has come in and wants to taste chicken and waffles again. So, but they know that through social media, believe it or not. They get that message. And so our initial game plan is centered around, you know, hiring influencers, bringing people in and positioning it as exactly leveraging that momentum that's been generated from the very first location. We still do some boots on the ground stuff, like sponsoring little league teams and things like that. Everything that we can do to engage in the community, but that largely in part is posted, on social media also. So, we're thank God for Instagram and and all the other Twitters and all the other social media pieces that we have too. So,
Emily, can I throw in one thought? So this idea of having resources, if you're looking at franchises, one of the things that you're going to evaluate is the value proposition that franchisor offers you as a franchisee. And so there's a big difference between having available resources, a repository, if you will, that you then as a franchisee are going to decide, try to figure out what to do with it. So there's a huge difference between having resources and actually having expert partnership in implementation. And so as you're evaluating opportunities, and I think all 4 of the brands today are terrific examples of not only having great branding and resources, but also the infrastructure to help you implement. So as an owner, you can focus on growing your business and customers. There's all kinds of things to focus on, but you're not going to have to spend that time to do that or hire someone necessarily to do it. So I think that's an important factor to consider when you're evaluating your options.
Yeah.
So
Well said.
Emily, I know we need to be respectful of everybody's time. We have about 15 minutes or so left. We had a number of questions that were emailed to us that people wanted us to ask, and we probably got to go through a little bit of rapid fire here.
All right. So this one's specifically for Michael Lee. How much was your budget for grand opening?
Grand opening.
Yeah.
We're not a retail location, so ours is going to be much lower than most. I'm gonna try to answer this question in a couple different ways. So, if I remember correctly, to buy a single territory for us was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $45,000–$50,000. I bought multiple territories, so my pay-in for becoming a franchisee with multiple territories was about $70,000. My total budget for startup was just over $100,000. So $70,000 for territory, $30,000 for everything I expected to be paying for upfront. I think my marketing if you want to call that your grand opening was about $10,000 to $12,000. So that's kind of the buckets for our business that I would utilize. Obviously, we don't have a retail location, and we operate from the house. We had a couple cars to buy, but a lot of that budget is marketing upfront.
Thank you. And we had a couple of questions around mapping the area. How do you identify, based on demographics, how do you identify a territory? What makes a good territory? So if we're looking here in the Pacific Northwest, how would you say this is how we would find a good territory for you? Or how can you speak to that? Whether Chris, Michael, or Charles.
I'll be able to take it. So we are a retail organization that when we put retail stores on, we're serving a certain community. So we have a certain number of people, which would be different from other businesses, but we try to put within a given area, we try to put a population of about 300 on the minimum to 500 per location. And we know with that amount of people within a 15 to 30 mile, depending on the marketplace, that has that amount of population, we can market to those people and we'll get a significant amount of return in a successful store. So we want them to have the right amount of people that do it. But within that, there's the demographics, and then there's the modeling of our marketing that we do. We already know when we get into a location, what it's going to be, who it's going to pull, where it's going to pull from, and what we can expect, and we do a competitive analysis. So once we have that, we pretty much know what this location will be able to produce if it's run correctly. Now, sometimes it beats our projections, and sometimes it comes a little light. But pretty much we're right on the money on where it should be, because we see the leads, the cost of conversions, the population, the demographics, and we've modeled it from several other locations that are in very similar demographics than this one is. So it really does with that. On going on to the grand opening, we have a $5,000 to $10,000 budget for grand opening day. That's not for the running up of the grand opening. That's just for the actual on-site things that we might have, or a little bit of announcing. So we might have a radio remote. We might do some cable TV for a week before, just spark the area. But heavily what we do is social media, because people are on there learning, and they might not be looking for that product or service. But if they just see you and there's some kind of event going on, they get to know you. And if you give away, a face painting clown, we might have a bounce house. We might have, food to give away. We might have a big monster truck, or, a custom car show, and they're just showing it all off. People come for that. So we're not really trying to make a fortune on grand opening day. We're trying to meet the community and get them in. So that 5,000 to 10,000 is all the attraction on that day. The weekly advertising fund and the monthly advertising we do for each store is geared towards getting them to that grand opening, and then building that relationship with the customers, ties into a press release and some sort of a charity that franchisee is dear to, and that wraps everything into the community, the grand opening, and then the launch. And like usually that takes about 2 to 3 months after they soft open. We'll plan that grand opening launch. And like after that, it's like they pull a thorn out of their foot. It's like, I'm just ready to make money now. Everybody knows me. I got my staff set. We're really into the marketplace. Let's get going. And then it's just our team just energizes them to get up into sales.
Thanks, Charles. And Michael, Mudd, or Chris, do you have access to any type of mapping tool or something based on demographics that if somebody were interested in one of your brands here in the Pacific Northwest, that you could help them identify what territories or areas could make the most sense for them?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just jump in. So yes, is the short answer to that. Yeah, we do have a mapping software. I think if you're listening or investigating a franchise brand, you're going to want to investigate one in this particular area that has a strategy for penetration, that has a growth strategy in place, or is prepared to do that with sophisticated mapping software. Michael and I kind of came up through the ranks with a system that actually utilized some really great software and really great tools as we plan out the footprint of different markets, Dallas, Atlanta, tier 1 cities where we know that we're going to have a certain number of areas that we can penetrate and go into. Each of the growth in those areas is going to affect the other areas. So we may start out with a market that says, we're going to have 10 locations within this particular market. And one franchisee opens that's adjacent to another market area, which completely negates the ability for that market area to open. So instead of 10, you get 8. And so that's just a general broad stroke there. Ours, we look at the same kind of content information, demographics information that the gentleman was just mentioning too before. We do a socioeconomic value. We do population based. We'd love to be able to say it's a 1 to 3 mile radius. But if we go into Manhattan, that's multiple territories. If we go into Topeka, Kansas, you may need a 5 mile radius to protect a space like that. So we do an impact study on each and every location, and we do look at if it's an existing location that they're about to go into or go up against next to. We look at that existing database. We look at the customer base, and we protect that existing franchisee to the point where we're protecting the new franchisee as well. Because as we know, if you put 2 franchisees together, you don't just have one unhappy franchisee, you have more than that. And so we're very sensitive to that. Relationship with our franchisees is the absolute paramount, and we do everything we can to protect not only the existing one, but the new one as well.
Yeah.
Michael?
I'll make mine. I'm going to try to keep it brief. There's 2 cuts of data that we do. We use Gibbous, which is going to give us all the demos, and we're going to be able to map out the territory. The territories for us are really large. We're about a 400,000 population territory. It's always going to be a little larger than that. And then we take a second cut of data. This is kind of going into the launch. And we want to look at where is the strongest concentration of our core customer profile. And that's done with psychographics. We actually want to go in and zone in on the most favorable zip codes within that territory. And then the franchisee is going to park the truck in that zip code because it creates the billboard effect. And then we're gonna opt in on the marketing blitz for that one zone. So what we want to do is keep the franchisee efficient as they're growing. So one territory, again, is going to support a fleet of 4 trucks. So we want to go into the most targeted part of the zone and zone market that little area to get the brand ramping up. And we're spending about $15,000 on the grand opening campaign that by month 3, you're already launching into your second truck. So there's some predictability around the system behind that marketing to drive the launch of the business, but that's something our marketing team works with the franchisee on.
Excellent, thank you. So it sounds like across their board, you all have a different strategy in place. This is not pin the tail on the donkey. And while one business strategy might look different than a different brand strategy, there is a strategy that makes sense for your particular brand. Yeah. Okay, we've got 4 minutes left. Blair, Charlie, or attendees, this is your last chance. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going.
There was a question that came in, Emily. Which concepts are semi-absentee and what does that mean?
Well, I can tell you about Tint World. Tint World it can be a semi-absentee owner. And I have owners that own 3-4 stores and they hardly go to work. When I say go to work, they're working, but they're working on the business, not in it. And so they're thinking about how to manage their people. And then I have other people that literally buy one store and they're in it every day and they like running it and they like dealing with every little nuance, and that's what they have. But if you're going into it with planning on building a territory, a 3-store territory or more, you pretty much want to get one store open, really get to be a semi-expert, an expert at the business. It usually takes about 3 to 6 months. And then from that, and I say semi-expert, in about a year, you're pretty much good. I mean, we're training all the time. So once you're there, at that point, you can actually open up multiple stores and not have to be at every one store, because you put a manager in, you're on the next store, you build out. You put a manager in your next store. When you're ready to not have to open up more stores, they can pretty much operate on themselves. You're just managing the KPI indicators that we put in place that you really want to know. So we have a program that's called a 5-star program, and our operations team works with the owners to do a rating on each store on 49 metrics that fit 5 classes of category that wind up to be their 5-star program. And that 5 stars is not to show them what they're doing wrong. It shows them what they're doing right and what opportunities are low-hanging fruit for them to fix the next quarter, and on and on and on each quarter. So that's kind of the way we help them level up all the way.
Thanks, Charles. So regarding semi-absentee and what does that mean? Michael Mudd, would you like to answer that?
Our business model allows for semi-absentee operation because we have the full service marketing piece. That conversion rate goes into a full service contact center. So we handle all the inbound bookings for our franchisees, and then we route everything out to the technology fleet through a tech stack, right? There's a tech stack that allows us to book all the stuff for the truck. So it does allow for it, but I will just warn anyone who's looking at semi-absentee with us, it gets contagious within our company. So once you start researching it, there's a lot of people that have come in our process wanting to be semi-absentee. And then by the end of a discovery day, they're like, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to be full-time. They'll leave $200,000 salaries in the middle of a pandemic to be hands-on in this business because of the scalability of it. So I will tell you, it's possible. We do have semi-absentee. We just launched one just a month ago in Tampa, and they work really well. The business model supports that, but just be aware, you might fall in love with it more than you think. The junk business might not sound sexy until you start researching it, and it might change for you.
Thanks. Chris Brown, we've got about 30 seconds. Is your model semi-absentee, and what does that mean?
So we were designed as an absentee model, and we definitely, the scalability of our model, because it's so small and simple, I'd say 90% of our franchisees are multi-unit growth franchisees. They all have more than one location, and that's because of the ease of scalability. It's very easy to establish a model with a general manager, or as I mentioned earlier, even a shift lead. It's that simple. The technology gives our owners the ability to manage their business inventory, labor management, live sales, transactional analysis in the palm of their hand on their PDAs today. So there are a lot of things, a lot of tools that we have in place that reinforce the ability for someone is, as Charles was saying, to work on their business and not necessarily in it. So
Thank you, Chris.
thanks.
Well, everyone, it is 1 o'clock on the nose. I respect your time. I am so appreciative of your time, your insights, your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us, both to our panelists and our attendees. I hope you got what you needed. If you have any follow-up questions, you can certainly reach out to Blair, Charlie, or I. We want to make sure that you get all your answers, your questions answered, and that you really get what you need as you explore entrepreneurship. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks,
Thank
Emily.
you.
Everybody.
Thanks again, everyone. Take care. Good to see you.
Could everybody just
Bye,
hang on
everybody.
for 1 second?
Sure.
Sure.
Blair, after you've stopped the recording.